Okay, good morning, everybody. Hopefully, can you hear me? Right. Okay, so let's begin our today's recording and discussion. Right. We're continuing to post this video on the Blackboard. So in that case, more people can come in to say. I want to say our progress. Okay, this is our second week, right? Our second week, we're gonna. The second week, we're still on the module 1, but the second part and the last part. So the next week, I'm going to upload the module 2. We're going to do some real implementation on the software and do some simple work starting from a very basic machine learning methodologies, solve the financial problem, and then gradually to a more dedicated models, right? Something like that. Okay, so meanwhile, like I said, if any questions, just email me, or you want to meet me on the Wednesday in the classroom, in the finance department. All right, or we can set individual Zoom meeting if necessary. All right. So the second part of the module 1, actually I grabbed from the book I mentioned in the syllabus. Remember the book called The Practical Machine Learning in R. If you're interested, you can buy one because I think this is very cheap. Let me see. Let me see in the Amazon, how much is it right now? Because this book is fantastic. Yeah, this book are what I'm into. See, the machine learning in R, and paperback only $26, right? So it's very cheap. The reason is I really want to recommend this book. This book is so cheap, and the materials is fantastic. I think it's let me see how many pages it is. It's 500 pages. So it's very rich in the contents, and the knowledge is very shallow. It's very easy to be approachable. All right, it does not require you any background on complex math or computer science. No, they are really only require very basic statistical knowledge, like a probability, all right, something like that, mean, standard deviation. So you can see there. I saw when I select the book, I think the review is very good, right? So. Yeah, so anyway, so this is a very good book. I strongly recommend you. And I use this book, a couple chapters, particularly, for example, for the opening chapter to discuss RStudio. I think their introduction very good. And also in the future, we're gonna talk about some other machine learning topics. I'm also use their PowerPoint slides, and definitely I will use other books because this book is not dedicated to the finance audience. Or economic audience. This audience is very broad range from health science, healthcare. We understand healthcare data is also very rich nowadays, analysis business. So I'm going to use other books and focus on the financial application, those things, right? But it doesn't matter, the application, because we're introduce the software today, when hopefully we can finish the whole part. And okay, so let's begin officially. This part of the PPT belongs to the second chapter of that book. If you buy them, I strongly recommend, right? Because the price is very friendly. And so let's look at it here. Let's look at the objectives, right? So I think this page you can basically skip to talk about. By the end of this lecture, you will have learned the following, right? So they give you a formal introduction there, right? We'll learn what is R, what is RStudio, what I mean by integrated development environment, IDE, although the name is so abstract and so high level, but it's actually very easy to understand what is IDE, integrated development environment. All right, facilitate coding in R. You will find out, I will demonstrate to you how to use the packages to redistribute and to reuse R code. Again, so we also discussed today how to write, save, and execute your own basic R script. These functions, how to implement your code, we definitely will talk about this all the way through the whole semesters. All right, so you don't worry about that. We probably touch a little bit for each bullet points there, but not a full picture of them because we're going to finally use them every class, right? And by the way, so when I talk about the progress, this is an online class, right? So I just give you a presentation to give summary to clear some of your hard points, for example. But I definitely expect that you will begin to learning and review by your own self, reading since the Monday, and usually I will give you a video on the Friday. So in that case, we can discuss your solve any problems. All right, so you definitely want to start from the Monday, right? Begin to review by your own selves the module I uploaded. All right, and I expect we'll probably have a homework, since the module 2, that means next week. But anyway, so I will give you enough time to finish. I will give you like around 10 days, for example, a long window to finish assignments, right? So all the assignments will based upon the lectures, the examples I gave to you. I will change something, the lecture practice, something like that. All right. Okay, so let's talk about the histories, right? Our programming language began in 1992, all right, to create a special purpose language for use in statistical application. This is software developed by the professor from the Auckland University from New Zealand, and it's very small software and easy to install, and I think it's very easy to use also, right? Now, remember, R programming is a core essence of the software. All right, R Studio is different thing. R Studio is developed probably a little bit younger, right? In the 2000, for example, development, because the R Studio is more likely a user-friendly, coding environment. I will show you later on. All right, so it's popular, right? Because it's free, open source, and developed by a community of developers. This one is very important thing. Let me show you something. If you want to self-learning, what's going to happen here? Say, for example, right? So I came across some problem. When I coding, I want to solve some problem. I have a 2 data frame. So data frame probably is a little bit unfamiliar to you. Let's say data, right? A 2 table, it like Excel, right? It's a 2 table. So I want to merge them together, right? For example, one table talk about a stock price, and the other table talk about trading volume, right? And each table will talk about the company. All right, so for example, I want to solve this problem, very practical. All right, I have a table 1, right? Table 1, all right, table 1, right? Just for example, talk about intuition. I'm not mean to talk about any really implementation of the code. So far, it's too early. All right, so let's talk about intuition. So let's say this table 1, there's a company. Sometimes in finance we call them ticker, right? The ticker, right? Company A, AAPL, for example, this is Apple stock. All right, and Amazon. All right, so each company will have like a closing price, right? Closing price. All right, closing price, right? Each company has closing price. And I also have a table 2. Table 2. Let's say talk about table 2. Talk about it's again the ticker number, and ticker is not trading volume. Let's change another variable, say debt. All right, debt insurance. Sorry, it's a little bit small here. Debt insurance. So what I mean too, this is AAPL. This is the Amazon. All right, this is Boeing, for example. All right, so one table include all the stock price. The other table documents the that insurance, that document, if that day or that month, definitely it depends on your time calendar, your time probably year, for example, like year, right? Year. So for example, so you're talking about for that month or for that year, if this company issued that, like bank loans, a corporate bond, if to issue the bond, and this table document on that time point was going to be the stock closing price. For example, if you want to research on if the company announcement that they were going to issue the bond or borrow money from the market or bank loans, will that impact their stock price? We want to look into the relationship. Definitely, this relationship is a little bit unclear so far, right? So we need some research, but it doesn't matter. So your first step was to merge these two tables together, right? Merge together. You want to merge. So basically, you want to merge, for example, on this side, all the company, all right, name by name, year by year, and there's another two column. One is the closing price, the other is that insurance or not. All right. Now, there's one thing. This two table is not symmetric. For example, this table one, we may have a 500 company, but in the table two, we probably only have a 200 company. Why? Because that insurance, not necessarily all the company has that insurance. All right, probably only part of them. However, for the stock market closing price, this information is pretty accurate. We understand each company will be traded on the stock market every day, unless it's suspended. All right, so that in that day will be blanket. So in this case, stock markets data will be more, I would say the sample will be larger, but that insurance data will be relatively scarce. So when you merge together, you probably want to do some manipulation. All right, so let's give you some example. Now you want to do this in the software. All right, no matter, let's say RStudio, all right. So in that case, you don't know how to do this, right? So what you're gonna do here is that you probably want to self-learning. That means to go to the Google, all right? And you're probably like a search like me, right? So how to merge data frame by filter R. You don't need to type any, full complete sentences, because, the Google will definitely automatically recognize what your problem, because where millions of people probably have a similar questions, in particular for the beginners. All right, so in this case, we're probably like a stackflow.com is, I think, one of the most popular, people talk about such a kind of issue. For example, like jump big data frame in R and a filter in the same time, how to merge data frame, like something like that. So right, so most of them in the Stack Overflow. This is probably the major forum I usually use. All right, and sometimes the people, Google will probably want to summarize that. People also ask how to merge data frame in R. When I develop this, is going to be use this one. I find that for the beginner, the Google, the proposed, people also ask is very helpful tools here. All right, so and most likely they can give you the answer in a short way. So yeah, I think this is very convenient. All right. All right, so let's go back to here, right? So okay, so that's why it's so-called a community of community developers. All right, and we have so many people involved in this area, and we also have many developers. That means the people who write the code or functions for the package. All right, then you can use the package. So the people, for example, if you want to analyze the time series data, for example, if you want to analyze, they want to plot, all right, you want to calculate, calculate, for example, like a standard deviation, which is very simple, definitely. All of the functions will be, created by the other people, the third party, and the people will voluntarily contribute the code to the community. All right, and then people can download, and usually you don't need to download, just use the RStudio environment. You can automatically download into the software environment. All right, we will demonstrate later on. Right, so why the community of community developers is very important thing. For some other software, if there's not many users there, you'll probably find that if you want to solve some functions, you can't find any resources or people discuss that. All right. The packages that the open source code distributed by the Comprehensive R Archive Network, CRAN. All right, this is a repository of a popular R code. Usually, you don't need to go to this website. This website is store all of the functions packages there, and you probably only need to enter into this website when the first time when you download our software. All right, let's say. Right, for example, so if you go to there here, right, so that if I go to here, the CRANRproject.org, all right, then you can select to download. Let me see, where's download? Yes, here, right, clearly, right, for me, I just simply want to download R for Windows, right, and hopefully you already done this by your own self. I strongly recommend you to do this because next week we're going to implement in a software environment, all right, and this is what you want to do. So when you go to here, you don't need to go to subdirectories. You simply go to Miros. All right, Miros. So Miros is the link you want to click so they can begin to download. All right. So any of them, right? And you don't need to care, but I think probably you want to prefer US, for example. And yeah, right. For example, select this one, right? Then they begin to download. All right, open that. So that's the one thing. So, okay. And so this is our download, or if you don't know, forget what is the website, you simply go to the download, right? So they will remind you all of the things. All right. Okay. The Mac is very similar to the Windows if you use that, although I use the Windows, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of you can download our Mac by your own self. All right, there's one thing. And now let's talk about RStudio, right? RStudio. Now the RStudio is another software. All right, so this software is again small one because when you download the R, the interface is a little bit ugly, and but RStudio is much better. Let me firstly present to you, then we can discuss the rest of the slides. It will be easier. All right, so simply go to download the RStudio IDE. IDE simply we have discussed the integrated development environment. All right, the name is IDE. That simply means that user friendly. That's it, and very convenient. All right, you can download here. All right. Now let's go to what is R looks like here. So when you download R and RStudio, they will show up in your startup, the button there, and install software like whatever software you installed before. All right, and so it's gonna be like this one. All right, this is so-called console. All right, console, that means you type into the code and a command, they will give you the answers. All right, for example, like this one, 2 plus 2, it gives you 4, right? Something like that. Definitely in the future, we're gonna learn more complex words, right? So for example, if I write into 2 plus 1, they will give you true, right? Because indeed, this is a logic computation, logic, all right? And of course, or you can say more complex ones, for example, it's 0.5. It's not a complex, but sorry about that. So any computation you can do this way, all right? Or you can assign an array, right? A equals to, for example, there's some error unexpected. Let me see. Oh, okay. So yeah, let's see something wrong here, right? This is an invalid expression. That means you can't use, for example, use the parentheses and then use the comma. All right, so usually they will give you an arrow on this. All right, so that's the one thing. What I'm doing here right now instead, because if you directly tell the R, I'm going to type into an array, which is 2, 3, 4, and they will not recognize this format. So you probably want to use the other way, use this, put the C here. All right, I just give example, right? The magic of the language, programming, the grammar here. The C means concatenate, concatenate. All right. Now, our class is that this way. You definitely, some people will teach the R software using the whole semester to talk about all the grammar like this one. All right. I will not do this. I will talk about those things along with the financial and machine learning example. So in that case, I think it's more efficiently because you will learn the R, the programming, the grammar, and simultaneously, you know what kind of problem we can solve. All right. Just instead of simply learning boring, the coding grammar here. So the same is concatenate. Concatenate simply means that you group everything together. That's it. That's it, right? Group everything together. You simply can do this way. All right. By the way, when you see A equals something, all right, when you take the enter, it will now show results. It only means that, okay, you give something to A. That's it. If you want to show what is A looks like, you need to retype the name here, A, and present the print out. All right. So this is the things. Okay, now let's try some. Now let's look at different things. Previously, we used to concatenate. 1, 2, 3, 4, we group together. It's very randomly numbered and selected, right? You can put whatever you want. However, this format is not so easy to analyze, particularly for the data. All right, usually we want the data is tidy format, a tidy data. That means that there's each column will represent each variable and each rows will represent each observation. All right, we will mention this later on, give more examples. So I want to make them data frame. In R, we call them data frame, data.frame. So I want to convert a loosely organized array to a compacted data frame format. All right. So in that case, you can see it's going to be A, it's going to be the column name. It's a variable. It's like height, income, GDP, whatever. All right. So this is a variable and this is the value. The first 3, 1, 2, 3, it means the order. All right. The row numbers. It is not a volume. It simply means the order of the rows here. All right. The first column officially started from named A here. So that's why I convert loosely arranged numbers to a data frame, right? So those techniques we'll use in the future, all right? Let's just simply give example here. And you can use the control plus L, right? Control plus L to delete, to clear, the space, all right? And you also can do, for example, A equals to concatenate C. Basically, you can say 2, 3, 4. Let me see if you can put some characters, say name. And I copy A here. So you can say it simply means that every element can throw into the concatenate C, right? See here. This means concatenate. All right, this is, I think, the very basic R there. But usually when we handle it with the data, you probably will read the data from the CSV or Excel. When they read into the R, we need to, usually they will read into the data frame format, not in that format, right? But it's also very powerful. We'll have more experience in the future. Right, and then there is this is called RGUI, right? So there's a file, so you can new script. That means if you want to write a bunch of codes there, right? You can write here, all right? So whatever, you can see 2 + 2, all right, something like that. All right, so here. All right, so this is so-called editor. All right, no, I don't want to. And stop means if you want to stop the programming running this, it's okay, it's up to you. And file, there's going to be, let me say, if you want to source our code, that means you probably purposely you have a bunch of a code together to solve some problem and you save them in the computer. All right, in that case, you want to source our code. All right, so you want to open that. All right, and edit, same thing, copy paste. All right, so All right. So, but the question that you can see, this is originally our software. Then this environment is very not quite beautifully designed, right? So particularly for complex, and if you want a data visualization, you want to look into in the processing what the progress looks like. You can see anywhere. Now let's close it because we have already downloaded. We also downloaded RStudio, and let me open RStudio right now here. All right. So. No, this is RStudio. Okay, so RStudio only can be used if you also download our software. All right, when you open that, usually they will remind me, okay, there's a new version available. Do you want to do that? Probably I want to say to remind me later. All right, so now this is not your business. This is you know, the for the later course I'm going to introduce. So let's close this. All right, now let's look at this structure here. So in RStudio, this is a console. This console is very exactly the same as our software we do before. All right, and for example, you can type 2 + 2 and equals 4 here. All right, like I say here, this is the again. So usually you want to solve a problem. You have probably a bunch of lines of code together. You want to establish a separate script to save somewhere, and next time if you want to run them, you can open that. All right, so in that case, you want to separate your window, like you want to click here. All right, make the window separate. So in this case, you can in this window to type into the code neatly. All right, so and you can write whatever you want, right? If you want to a equals 2 + 2. All right, and then b equals a times 2, and then c equals b times 2, something like that, right? For example, now in this case, so again, so you can use the Control + L to clear that. This is my habit. Definitely depends on you. I would like to need space here. All right, so you can select all of them and you can run them. All right, so they will show everything here. Now you can see this is really weird. In the console here, it does not show any value. All right, the value is shown here. So what happened here? Now, the console here will execute the code. That's right. However, look at the meaning. When you place 2 + 2 gives to A, what actually happens? That means the 4 stored in the A, right? A becomes 4. All right. That's your execution. But the question is that your action finished just simply A equals to 2 + 2. That's it. That's it. That's what you did, right? If you want to know what is the value of this A, like I said before, you probably need to type A and they will give you 4 here. All right. They give you 4 here. I don't know why this is really weird. Why they always give me double, right? Always double. I don't know. Maybe I need to restart. You know, something bugs there. It's fine. It's okay. It does not impact. All right. So and here the value here, this part, it's like I can see this is environment. It represents intermediary step it generates. All right. For example, when you calculate this, all right, 2 + 2 equals 4, give to A. A equals 4 times 2 give to B, so you can see B equals 8. So this is intermediary value generated, and this is very useful information, and you more likely want to check. All right. And then in this here, you usually want to plot something. There's a nicely figure what in this windows. All right. So you can see this is a very convenient, you know, environment here. And also you can see the file. You can, if you want to write a new code, it's called R script. All right, just simply write something here and it can save somewhere in your computer, right? Definitely. All right. And if you run your code, you select them and you click the run. All right. Okay, so this is probably an open file. That means if you already have a code in your computer, you just open that. All right, and run this. For example, in a class, I usually have already code I have prepared. I simply open file. All right, open that and run this. That's it. All right. So this is so-called RStudio, and we will use this repeatedly in the future. All right. Okay. Let me know if any questions. Let's go back to here. All right. So we know the RStudio, like for example, download the most recent version of our. Unlikely we already done this, right? And console pane, script, environment, plus we also have introduced all of them. Our console means, remember this means that the bottom left, right, to show the results, all right. And the script pane is, the upper left, right? So that means represent you write a code there. And the environmental means the top right, which is show the intermediary step value generated, all right. And the plus means the rest part, right? Will show you the, the figure windows, right? There's nothing to say. Okay, so the R package is usually you need to package. Package is definitely like a software of the software, right? This means it's a brain. You need to do the functions, right? And the functions, the packages can implement very complex, the tasks there, all right? So if you want to install any packages, you can install that packages command, right? And in this parenthesis, you will put the package name. Usually in our class, definitely I'm going to tell you which package you're going to use. But in the future, when you do some unknown project or whatever things, you really want to use the Google to search a little bit, and right? But the commonly used package is probably tens of them. And if you do a couple of projects, you probably will remember them very clearly because most of the project, the packages has been integrated to only one. All right. For example, let's say for example, like let me see the RStudio, right? So I want to install, right? It will automatically remind you install packages, all right? And remember, when you install, you need a double quotation here, all right? For example, like a tidy merge, right? So this package is very powerful because this package is major functions to clean, merge, and data manipulation, and then clean the data, everything here, all right? So want to install them. All right, and later on, we're gonna give a presentation on how to use that. All right. When you install that, for example, if you want to run them, all right. Say you want to wait for several seconds to begin to install right now. All right, so this is a big package. All right, and when you install this, you can see this wait a few more seconds, and it seems that everything's okay. All right. You can see in under this tidyverse packages, there's a lot of them, a lot of packages. All right, a lot of packages also installed. All right. Today is very interesting. You can see every actions will be executed twice. All right, and I probably need to, that's the open source software problem. You will see a lot of weird, issues here because the thing is that because it's open source, sometimes there's a bug, and most likely you probably want to restart, the R here and to solve those problems. All right. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. There's something wrong with my computer right now. Yeah, I need to stop here. This cannot stop. The reason I have such a problem, the reason is that because my computer already installed tidyverse, all right, already installed them. So I just, for demonstration, I install again. So that's probably something problem. I hope your computer has not such an issue, all right? And if you have such a problem, like difficulty to implement the packages in the future, you better want to find me, all right? We can establish a Zoom meeting, or you want to talk with me face-to-face on a Wednesday, all right? So this is the one thing, all right? Okay, and after you install the packages, you probably want to begin to use them. All right, you want to use them. You want to use this. right? So just elaborate tidyverse. Elaborate simply means that you want to require to use this packages in your environment, all right? And then you begin to implement some functions, all right? This here. Okay, let me see if sometimes if you don't know if your installation of the packages is good enough or everything's fine, you know, you probably want to run the library. That means you want to let the computer to try to call them, right? I want to use them. See if they give you a warning. If they give you a warning, then you have an installation problem. All right. So like me here, to me, it seems that the installation is perfect. You can see it's give you like attaching packages, all the packages, like for example, like this one, ggplot2, this is for plotting. All right, table, there's a pre-created table there. TIDYR is a clean data. So most likely, definitely we're going to use the packages in the future, right? But you can see most likely my installation is a success, right? There are some warnings there, but most of the warnings are benign and useless, right? For example, like they say the packages was built under our version 4.045. That means remind you of those for installed in the newer version, whatever, but it does not matter, all right? So that means your installation is correct, right? So in that case, you can for the future analysis. All right, so that's the thing. Sometimes the right warning. If there's a problem, you see what's gonna happen is if there's a problem. If there's a problem, they will give you a warning, but the content is very small, only a couple of lines. They say you fail. This installation is a fail, or I can't record this packages, or we can't call these functions. All right, something like that. You can clearly show there only 1 or 2 lines, not like this one, a bunch of lines. That means your installation has been successfully finished. All right. Okay, so that's so-called install packages and library. All right, and sometimes if you have installed, but when you use them, they have a problem. You probably want to either restart RStudio or update the installation. That means remove the software and reinstall again. Unfortunately, that's sometimes going to happen because as I said, it's open source software. There's some bugs there. All right, let me see if there's update. So if you have some update, packages, they probably some functions there. All right, for like update packages, and you put the package name there, they're gonna be re-download again. All right, sometimes maybe it can solve some problem. Right, if you still cannot be solvable, like say something missing or whatever, then we can discuss together there. All right, but all in all, you can see install the packages and elaborate them, call them successfully. That's the very, very important foundation. Right, only after that you can do analysis for data in the future both for the class materials, both for the homework. All right, and by the way, for our class, definitely we're gonna upload some of the R script, and then we will follow the R script to run them, explain the results, and plot them. That's very, very important for you to replicate my work. That means, for example, next week, I'm going to upload some R script, sometimes short, sometimes a little bit longer, and I will run each line on the class to demonstrate. And definitely you need to run by your own self firstly to make sure every line can be executed and generate expected results. All right, so that, for example, every Monday you can start to do this work, or if any problem, you can search in Google by your own self to try to find out. If you can, they can contact me. All right, but all in all, on the Friday I will give a summarize. All right, so now let's go back to the slides here. So we're going to install packages, the loading the packages. I think that means loading right library. We have to talk about that, right? There's separate functions here, and they use the package so-called R Weka, something I never used. So there's a lot of packages for different, sometimes for different science and subjects. You don't need to care about. You don't need necessarily to know all of them, right? And write a script, like I said, you can tidyverse. We just install that. You can actually install and elaborate today tidyverse, because tidyverse is probably most of the common packages we're going to use every day. So you better want to install them very good, no bugs, no any errors. We can solve them, clear this problem in before, right, in advance. So in that case, in the future, when you do homework, you will have not such a problem anymore, right? You better want to, like I said, install it and this software today. See if you have any problem. All right. So if I say this one, for example, they probably already installed the packages, they begin to use them, and then they want probably use the ggplot. I will mention that this is a data visualization functions I'm going to talk about in the future, but they basically write something there. All right. Excuse me. And you want to run them, right? You write some code, you run them. We have a demonstrate actually, for example, demonstrate 2 + 2 = 4. You also can, exercise these lines, and you want to run them. All right. There's a different data types in R. Every textbook will mention that. I think it's very intuitive. There's logic, for example, true or false. There are numerical. There is an integer that is like a 4, 5, 6 integers, and there's a characters. Characters for like a name, Lisa, Mary, high, low. Those are characters. All right. So that means letters most likely. And factors means data type that is used to store categorical values. Each possible value of a factor is known as a level. All right. For example, I store data about the income. All right. I start about data like a GDP. We understand those are numerical number, but we still can have a different factors. That means different levels, right? High GDP, medium, intermediate GDP, and low GDP. All right. High income, medium income, low income. So we have as different factors. So in this case, sometimes we want to look into the factors, right? So different levels. Even for the gender, for example, female and male, there's 2 factors. It could be category, the characters, but it also could be the factors. All right, we will talk more detail. This will be, although it's intuitive, but to use them, it requires some in-depth discussion. We will know in the future. But luckily, most likely in finance subject, we're tackle with numerical number. Sometimes numerical number actually very easy to tackle with, all right, because it's very natural, right? Ordered factor, like I said, low, medium, and high. Usually this ordered factor will come from previously captured and factor. We reorganize them and endow them with such an order, right, manually. For some particular science, like political science, social science, and medical science, they probably use these functions very frequently. All right. Okay, so see if you have any questions in this step right here. And sometimes in R, it's really interesting that you can force, some characters to some numbers. Let me give you some examples. Let's say, right, and everybody say, for example, we understand 6 + 2. This one definitely is, sorry, we can directly tap into the console because it's so simple code. Like 5 + 2, definitely this is true, right? This is true. Now the question that I want to, sometimes I don't want to true or false. I want to say 0 and 1, right? 0 and 1. So in that case, you probably want to force this true and false categorical, the characters to become numerical number. All right. So in this case, I can force them to coerce to numerical. So that means you want to say s dot numerical. All right, numeric and 5 + 2. Now you can. Oh, sorry, this arrow. Oh, sorry, I type. There's typo, right? Typo. Right, that's one. Right. So now you can say this is the 1. Again, so my software environment today has some problem, but they always give you twice, presentation. But it's fine. Your computer probably only show once. I don't think there's a problem. All right. So this is the 1. All right. Or you probably want to say I change a little bit. 5 less than 2. All right. How about that one? That's a 0 because it's a false. All right. This is numerical. And let's say A = 5, right? definitely equals 5. We assign A. And I want to look at the attributes of the A here. The attributes. And you want to say it is a numeric, right? You want to examine. Now, sometimes it's not so clearly. For example, let's say number 2. Number 2. This 2 could be numerical number. All right, but it also could be character. This 2 could be represents your street name, right? Could be represents your house number, right? Could be represent the password. If it's password, the meaning is not numerical anymore. It's going to be characters. All right. So this is the sometimes you want to. All right. For example, like A equals 5 here. A is numerical, right? I can put as dot character, right? I force the numerical number become character type. So that means I put A here. All right. So you can see it's a 5. It's become character. And be careful, this is also double quotation to represent this is a character, right? It's not numerical meaning anymore, right? All right, so now let's go to let's continue. Vectors. So we actually, luckily in the beginning, we have introduced that the vectors, right? A way to collect elements of the same data type in R together in a sequence. All right, for example, we use the concatenate function. This is very easy to use. You don't need to download any packages. It has been embedded into the software when you download them. So for example, if you want to establish a vector, all right, store all your team's name. All right, so all the name here, you concatenate, then collect them together and give them to the names. You assign a new variable called names and collect them, right? This sign you can use the equal sign, all right, or you can use the endowment signs. There are similar things, all right. Now you also could index them. For example, I want to know what the first person's name, so you can say the names index 1. Index 1, it will show the mic. All right, so it will output. I can try by yourself, right? Copy these things, right? And have input in your console, the R console, and type into names 1. You will find out what's going to happen. All right, so let me, for example, try this one to make sure there is. Let's say names. C, because those are characters, you want to use a double quotation here. All right, so J, all right, comma, right, Mike, for example. All right, so now you assign a 2 person's name to this. All right, and if you want, say, name 1. All right, the first person, you can run both of them. Oh, sorry, it's my typo. Typo is a very important thing, right? Sometimes, if, for example, if you miss a letter, they will remind you of typo there. You want to be careful. All right, but some, that's really weird because names, I remember, is a function of R. So sometimes you don't want your homemade name is same or replicate the function's name in the system. For example, like we understand the pi is very critical number, is 3.1514. 1592, something like that, right? So this is a very critical mass parameters are further on the circle run. So if you give the pi, type in, you probably want to name some variable like that because that name has been already used in the system. Automatically assume this is the rate of the circle run. All right. So in this case, you better want to like a different thing, right? Name, right? All right. So let's run this. Then you can see the first one, the checks first, to simply index the first elements. In the future, you will tackle such things very frequently. All right. For example, let's say I want to give a bunch of numbers. I want to find out what's the maximum one. All right. So that's the things. All right. So we have done this. Definitely, there's more function in the future. We'll know that, right? So there's mean, median, mean, max. For example, if I give you an array of numbers, right? A equals to 1, 3, 2, 4, -1, something like that. You put the mean, you put the data frame name A here, you'll find out what's the mean value of the whole numbers, right? It's very similar to the Excel. Right? They're very simple functions. If you want to become vectors, it should be the same data type. All right. For example, if you want to calculate mean, you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, -5. That's okay. Then Mike, you can't have such a name, right? Because if you do some different data type, you cannot calculate the mean values. All right. All right. So the class function we have introduced actually in advance, right? For example, if you want to give the x variable the contains is true, all right, the value is true, when you class them is logical. All right. And it is interesting. It is a TRUE by itself is a character, should be character, right? But why is so logical? Because true TRUE has been incorporated in the system, and our system automatically assumes this is a logical charge, not a character, right? Not a name like true, right? But if you really wanted to make it a character, I think let me do this one. All right. Let's say x, I can use the equal sign. All right, if you use TRUE, right, and if you use the class x, and definitely it's illogical, all right. But if you do this way, it become characters. That means become some password or name, let's just simply character, a combination of letter. X equals 2, you put some quotation there. All right, TRUE. All right, and then you do the class. So become characters. Let's become character because it gives some quotation. All right, the computer will recognize, oh, okay, this is a characters. This is kind of a name or some password or whatever. All right. All right. So, and also sometimes you want to know what the length of the sequence, you know, this is 1, because there's only 1 element there. Right. It's very easy. We will mention them in the future. And sometimes you, like I said, if you want, because this data probably numerical, but you want to coerce or force them to become characters. All right. And in this case, you can use some function like you want to put something, you force them to become logical, like a 1 is number. Numerical, but I want the 1 in dot its meaning like a logical 1 or 0 binary. You can use s dot logical, s dot numerical, s dot integer, s dot character. That means you force something variable to the type you desire. All right. Sometimes when you experience some data, you know, you probably will experience something like NA. That means the data is not available, blank or 0 value. All right. And if you want to test if the data has not available, you can use the is.na, and you want to put the data frame name here. All right. So let me try this. I will use the concatenate. So let's say maybe data frame may be better. Data frame. Let's see. I firstly concatenate 1, 2, 3, 1. Good. That's interesting. Let's purposely leave some blank here. Let's see how the computer recognizes that. And let's change the name here. Don't be confused. I assign here. It goes this way. Arrow in is empty. All right, when it's empty, you want to assign them, right? Like an NA, right? And then we'll say A. Now A has something. Now NA is missing value, is not available here. All right, if it become data frame, all right, you can see the B here. Now, if it is data frame, you can tap here, right? That's B, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Because the NA has a very special, it's a gray colors, means missing value, not available. All right. So, all right. Now, if you want to test, if there's, because sometimes in the data rows, the millions of rows, you can't scroll down row by row, observation by observation, because it's large, right? Could be the large data, could be millions. You want to test that data if there's not available data there. You want is NA. All right, let me run this. So you can see they give you the logic for each observation, right? Remember the or B here, 1, 2, 3, 4, NA 5. They will give you false, 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 true, false, exactly, because remember the fifth item is not available. All right, so give you a false, true here. All right. Okay, so strongly recommend you go back home to to practice those things, type into this by your own self to try, give it a try. All right. Okay, so perfect. So I think that's basically I have finished this, in the 1 hour, all of this introduction here. So you can see now what you're going to do here, right? Particularly, hopefully you have already done this, but if you have not done, you probably want to take this weekend or next early week to replicate what I had done today. All right, to give you some sense, right? If some errors, bugs, because we're beginners, we probably have some problems, some unexpected problems happens, as I did, many years ago. We also have experienced similar issue. So in this case, when you go through this smoothly, can replicate what I've done before, and then next week we have a new stuff, right? New module, probably spend another 2 weeks to talk about some, typical coding, give you some mini examples. So we do some financial analysis in a simple environment using the RStudio. All right, and we'll probably have a first homework at that time. All right, so if you have any questions, or we can close the meeting here.
Professor?
Yes.
A couple questions. Basically, I'm a little bit lost. Can I send you this link? Is this the right link that I downloaded for RStudio?
Sure, no problem.
This link and RStudio download. These are two of the links that we needed, right? For our class, for both classes?
Yes, there's two software, yes.
Okay, these two software, okay. And also, where are the recorded lectures posted on Blackboard? Because I couldn't find them.
Perfect, let me show you. There are a couple of students asked me there. So let me show, right? Usually you will go to in the Blackboard, there's a Zoom, right? So you open that, all right, open that. And definitely this is usually the link we do today. And this is a cloud recording, all right? You here say that our last one's here, right? You basically click that and you can view that. That's all.
Okay. And then from those two links, those are the only two things that we needed for our classes, right? Those two links I showed you.
Yeah, that's the software download. You just download the software, then that's all.
Okay.
Nothing to do. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Professor.
No problem.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, perfect. Let's assume there's no question there, and let me close the video today. Thank you very much.